So we got her gutted, got her in the truck, got it to where we're butchering it. In this case, I'm using my uncle's cabinet shop. He's gracious enough to let us use it. We've got an electric winch here. So when you're getting ready to hang a deer, you're going to want to make an incision on this back leg in between the shank and this tendon that runs through here. That's going to give you a super strong place to get hooks in and hang this animal. So I keep this duffel bag in my truck because I do not butcher my deer at my house. If you are going to do it at your house, you can just keep all this stuff at your house. But I keep this roll of plastic. It's just painter's plastic. Cover my uncle's workbench so I don't get blood all over it. Keeps the meat clean too. I would recommend you do this no matter where you're doing it. Keep stockinettes in there from limb. You can get them from anywhere. I age the hind quarters in these, the hams. If you're not gonna age those, you don't really need these, but I would recommend it. Paper towels, and I keep a cheap Sawzall there. You will see why here in a little bit. And I've got a scale that the battery's dead on, so that's not gonna do us any good today, but you can weigh your deer if you want to. All right, electric winch is ideal. Use whatever you got to use. I would recommend finding one that you can at least adjust the height on, just to make this easier. I'm gonna have her kind of hanging low for the beginning of this process and lift her up as I go down towards the front. And you'll see people hang them upside down from this, meaning the head up. You'll see people doing a gutless method. I don't really like that. I like to get the vitals out as quick as possible so that this body cavity can be cooling down. So you're not going to see that on my channel, but you can do what you want. Earlier in the video, we gutted this animal. We've got her hanging up. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come up on the inside of these hindquarters. Go inside out, meaning get your knife under the skin and split out. If you try to cut in, like I said earlier in the video, you're gonna put a lot of hair on your meat. You don't want that. Now when you're doing this up around these shanks, be very careful. All this deer's weight is hanging on these tendons. If you cut that, this thing's gonna go slinging. You got a sharp object in your hand. It's gonna be a bad time. Just work around this shank on each side. Once you get this started, you can just pull down and it comes off pretty easy. You almost don't even need to use your knife on parts of it. Now this knife, it's obviously a drop point hunter, but I made sure up towards the tip, it's got a little bit bigger radius than some of them so that it will also work pretty good as a skinner. My previous skinner models work great for skinning, not the best for gutting, even though I've had several people use them for that, and that's fine, they will do it. But this blade design is a little bit more of a hybrid and makes it just a better all-around knife for this type of stuff. All right, lift it up a little bit. When you get the tail, there's kind of a joint. If you can see it there, you just cut right through it. You're not really cutting through bone, you're finding the seam of that joint. You can see how it just starts to pull once you get it down a little bit. Maybe try to avoid nicking those hind quarters like I just did if you can. If you do, not a big deal. Got a lot of fat on this doe. Late season, mid-December almost. Now once you get further down here, I kind of make an incision to the bone around both of these joints. You're going to want to cut through the skin. Those sawzall blades do not like deer hide. They will saw through bone like nothing. It's going to give you some problems if you don't get through the skin. Or something, if you got one, sit underneath it, and you're just gonna split up from that incision and have this cut come up and meet where you've already started skinning. Kind of made a miss there. Might be better to go top down on those. Yeah, a lot less hair there. Have to trim around the brisket. That right there is probably why we didn't have a great blood trail, as I showed earlier. Here's the entry wound. Like I said, she turned and made it a 1/4 inch waist shot. Right at the back rib. Came out here really high. I wasn't below her. I guess my arrow just deflected from her movement or the rib or whatever it was, but when you have these internal wounds, the chest cavity starts filling up with blood, and when one of the exit wounds is real high, it doesn't come out of that side as much because it's still filling up here. She ran about 100 yards or so from the point of the shot. But yeah, not a great blood trail. Also, if you ever set up a winch like this for yourself, I would recommend getting it as high as you can. This one goes just a little shorter than I would like. I would like that neck to be up about head height if I could. It's still a great thing to use, but if you have the height and can mount it where it gets higher, I would recommend that. Now I'm going to skin this neck down as far as I can. This is an extremely underutilized cut of meat. It makes excellent roast. I actually had that for lunch. After I got the deer loaded up, I ran home. It's a cool day. You know, if it's like September or it's just a hot day, you don't want to be taking lunch breaks. You want to get this meat cooled down as quickly as possible. But I got the guts out of this animal and had her cavity open in the back of my truck, cooling down. It was like 30 degrees when I shot her. I think it got up to 40 before I came here. But anyway, this makes a great roast. Cook it in a Dutch oven or a crock pot. I mean, you don't even have to do anything to it. Cut it off the bone. You don't have to trim it. Don't worry about getting tough tissue out. It all dissolves when you cook it slow. And it just shreds and makes this awesome tender roast. So many people waste the neck, and you are missing out if you do. Especially on a big buck. I mean, if you kill a mature buck in the rut, I think I've gotten 15 pounds of meat off of a neck. Obviously, that's not going to be anywhere near 15 pounds on this doe, but it's still enough to be worth saving for no more work than it is. Once I feel like I've gotten it about as far as I can, same thing as the shanks. You're going to cut that to the bone so your saw will get through it easier. To the esophagus. So this is where that cheap saw comes into place. You can probably find these joints with your knife. It's kind of a pain. Those are really weird joints. The neck's pretty thick. You pretty much have to saw through it. So, like I said, cut through to the bone, get through all the skin and all that. Proceed any farther. This is the part where I try to get as much hair as I can off. It just seems a little more efficient to me when it's all still together, instead of cutting it up and then trying to get the hair off of it. And I kind of made a mess of the hair on this shoulder. Most of it I did pretty good. There's not a ton of hair on it. You may not feel like it now, but this will save you a lot of time in the long run if you just go ahead and get what you can off. And if you get a hair in your food every now and then, it's not that big of a deal. I'd rather have a deer hair than a human hair. I like to have a longer knife. This is a zwilling boning knife. Once this season is over, I'm going to design an SCK, kind of a boning slash butchery knife, and I'll have a video series on that as well. But for right now, I do really like these zwilling knives. You can use a regular hunting knife to get these shoulders off. It's a little easier with a longer knife, and there's really not like a ball joint you have to cut, so it's not like you need like a thick bladed knife for this. I mean, this is probably the easiest thing to get off this deer. It just, you get right behind that shoulder blade, I mean, it just comes right off. Usually let my dad do this side. We usually help each other. He's a little sick right now, so doing this one alone. He's left-handed. It's a little easier to get behind this one if you're left-handed, but still super easy if you're not. By the way, guys, this shop is Spalding Custom Cabinets. It's in Calvary. It's a Lebanon address. If you're in central Kentucky looking for some cabinets built, my uncle makes beautiful cabinets. All right, next I'm gonna get this neck off. Cut about right here. Some of that thick meat on there. It's gonna be a great roast. You can make pulled deer. Super easy. Crock pot, beef broth, barbecue sauce. Super easy, low maintenance meal. And I'm gonna have some recipes on this channel as well, but that's just something super easy to mention. Literally just throw it in there on low, cook it 9, 10, 11 hours, whatever, just until it shreds and you see a lot of this connective tissue is dissolved. Awesome deer roast. You don't necessarily have to do these necks, but I'm going to. Gonna get the back straps off. Now, people have different names. You have some tenderloins, which I call the tenderloins, and I call these on the outside the back straps. Call them whatever you want. I'm just kind of following how Meat Eater calls it, just so I don't get confused with other people. A lot of times there won't be as much fat. This is, I guess it's just getting into later winter, and this girl was putting on quite a bit here. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim it off before I try to get these back straps off. All right, this muscle, this back strap, runs all the way from the base of the neck, all the way up the spine, top of the rib cage, all the way to the start of the hind quarter. I like to make my incision here right where the hind quarter starts. Just go till you hit bone. You're gonna follow the spine. Let it guide your blade all the way up. Get as much meat as you can, and go in until you feel it hitting ribs. and you'll come in from the side, follow the ribs in that direction. All the way down. Come in from the top, just peel it back. I wouldn't pull too hard, it'll come off, but I don't want to rip meat and leave it behind. This is top tier cut on this deer right here. You want it to be just bone like that. Exact same thing on this side. Beautiful. Now, at this point, just start trimming any meat you see below the hams. You got this whole belly flab here. You got meat on the ribs. Not a lot. And all this is just gonna be grind meat. I mean, it's, you know, got a lot of tissues in it. It's just not very tender. Just old rough meat, but you should never waste it. Make all kinds of sausage, burger, whatever out of this. Snack sticks. Hold on to that. Now you're gonna hear some people talking about getting this rib meat out of here. I mean, that is paper thin. If you want to take the time to do that, I'm a huge advocate for using as much of the animal as you can. But I mean, it's got this waxy layer of fat on the inside as well. As you can see, it's got this waxy layer of fat on the inside and outside. I mean, that is, by the time you try to trim that fat off, there's almost nothing there. Now, you might have meatier deer wherever you are in the country if you're not here in central Kentucky, but I mean, you're gonna put a lot of time into trimming and getting almost no meat if you do that. So that's up to you. I'm not gonna tell you not to do it. But I'm not. I try to use as much of the animal as possible, but that's a point of almost no yield for a lot of effort for me. So I'm not going through all these ribs. As you can see, I'm keeping everything separated. It's going to make things go a lot quicker for the final process. Code.
Not one.
And just, you know, use your feel. If you're not sure if something's worth keeping, just feel of it, see how much meat is actually there. A lot of this is deceiving. I mean, that's just solid bone right there, even though it looks like there's kind of meat. But get as much as you can off. All right. Can't forget these babies. Got the inner tenderloins. Probably the most tender part on the deer. I'm gonna cut some of this fat out. I like to scrape some of that blood, coagulated blood off with the back of my knife. I would recommend you use the spine of your knife, scrape it on any kind of tissue perpendicular to your cutting edge is going to dull your knife really quick. Yeah, it's just these two strips, either side of the inside of the spine here, in between the ribs and the hindquarters. There's no special trick, just cut them out as intact as you can. It's just a sliver of super tender meat. I mean, you can just feel it, extremely tender. And this is just probably some more grind meat here. It's kind of a muscle that runs next to tenderloins. Again, try not to waste anything. All right, once you've got everything you're gonna get off this rib cage, spine, all that, the good old sawzall is gonna come in handy again. I'm gonna slice right at the base of the spine where it meets the hindquarters. Ideally, have a tub underneath to catch it. And then I'm gonna saw right down the middle through the hip bone and separate the two hindquarters. Okay. All right. So we got two hindquarters here. Just sawed them off. Now you can cut this tendon. You do not have to hang this deer on this tendon anymore. Cut that off. Peel this back a little bit more. Close to that joint. You don't have to actually get to it. I like to cut the tendons on these too because we're going to saw again. Saw does not like tendons. All right, now we're going to separate these shanks real quick. All right, now you don't need these shanks aging with your hams. we're gonna cut these off real quick. Kind of hang that over the edge of the table. Find it much easier to hit this joint if you come in from the back. I find it very hard for some reason to come in from the front. I just kind of start kind of at that bend right there. And you shouldn't have to be prying or doing anything crazy. You gotta just find that joint, yep, just like that. Do not waste these either. This is also an extremely underutilized thing. Same thing as the neck. Just slow cook it. All these tendons, all that stuff, it just dissipates. Or look up an ossobuco recipe. It's an Italian dish. I know Meat Eater and a bunch of other people have recipes on it. I have not tried that. It looks really good. But I just love using them as a roast. Pot roast, pulled deer, whatever. Alright, these are the front shoulders. I'm going to go ahead and get the shanks off here too, because I like to keep all the shanks together. I mean, I usually debone my shanks. I do think for roast, bone in adds a little flavor. But we eat a lot of deer meat, trying to save freezer space. That being said, this joint is quite a bit trickier to try to find with your knife, so I don't worry about it. This is just going to get shredded anyway. Just cut it off there. It doesn't matter. You can cut it into a million pieces. This is going to get slow cooked and shredded. It's not any some kind of grain structure that you're worried about cutting into nice steaks. Just get it off the bone. I'll use a boning knife for this. These are the shanks off the hindquarters. Same thing, just cutting them off the bone just to save some freezer space. It doesn't matter how, just get it off. You can see, I mean, this just has layers and layers of silver skin. This is why I actually used to try to cut all that out. It took forever. And then I learned that you can just slow cook this and it all dissolves and you don't have to trim any of that. I have significantly reduced my processing time by doing that. Alright, this is the neck. Nothing special about it either. Just make sure you get this esophagus out. Won't hurt you, but not an appealing thing to see in your pot roast. It's gonna be right here. And there's kind of like some tendon type things right next to it as well. I'll just cut all that out. And then as far as the rest of it, if you want to leave it on the bone, again, I think it might add flavor. I'm going to debone mine. For one, save space in the freezer. For two, my dog loves that neck bone, so she's going to be getting that. and just cut it off there any way you can. I keep it its own separate pile. It's all getting bagged together. And that's a lot of meat. There's zero reason to waste that much meat. And a lot of times, I won't actually be, I'll get all the big meat off, but I'll actually leave small chunks on here on purpose. Again, it's going to my dog. I don't consider that wasteful from feeding my animal with it. Just an extra little treat for her. But I get all the big stuff off. Probably gonna leave it just like that for her. These are the shank bones as well. I'm gonna save those for her as well. And you can make your own broth with this stuff. We might do a video on that one day. I'm not going to with this one. As far as the front shoulders, same thing as the necks and the shanks. Just cut all this off. Doesn't matter how you do it. It's all gonna be ground meat. So if you see something that looks like that in any of the meat, this is specifically a front shoulder. Those are glands. Make sure you go ahead and trim that out. Even if you're not going to do your final trimming right now, get those away from your meat. You don't want that in there. All right, so here everything is laid out. We've got the neck roast, deboned, inner tenderloins, back straps, all your shank meat, both hind quarters, and this is just all your rough meat you get from various places. Front shoulders, rib cage, belly flap, all that. That's going to be burger, summer sausage, whatever you need it to be, grind meat. I'm going to do a separate video of the breakdown of all the muscles on these hind quarters, because that is honestly the most complicated thing about all of this. Which cuts are good for what. So I think I'm going to make that its own video. But there is the breakdown that you need. And of course all the bones that you save for your doggos. Alright, so these are those stockinettes. You can see it's pretty open. So that's going to allow this meat to breathe on these hindquarters. I find it easier to get them in if you point the hip bone up, but you just kind of do it however you got to do it. And then I just kind of tie a loop at the top. And I hang it on a hook. We have a spare fridge that I hang these on. If you do not have a spare fridge or room to do this, that is fine. These are going to be okay if you don't dry age them. There's still going to be some great cuts on these. If you do have the ability to try that, I would recommend it. I personally think it makes it quite a bit more tender. And then the rest of this, I've just got in gallon Ziploc bags. You can use BPA-free tubs or whatever you got. I've kind of gotten away from the scent-free garbage bags. Those are not BPA-free. Just trying to be more health conscious, I guess, and avoid more plastic stuff. But anyway, stockinettes on the hindquarters. Sit. Sit. Show them teeth. Oh yeah. Hey, sit. Sit. And that's why I save the neck bones with some meat on it.